Where am I to go now? My legs ached from running. I'd be damned if I let Mama and Sid, slimy Sid, marry me off to his wretched friend, an oil baron who liked the look of me. Something sure is aristocratic and proper ladylike about her sweet little face, he said, sounding as slick as the liquid he mined from the earth. Sure, I suppose I should be honored that he deigned to look at me like that, but no, I wasn't a normal girl. Never had been, never would be. Heck, I'm probably not even a girl, not in the proper sense of the word, Lord, no. It was the good Lord that made me this way, so who am I to question it at all? A bloomin' garden full of flowers is how I felt for Miss Lillian Haggerty, great house down the lane. Miss Lillian was 2 years my senior, and had gone to the same ladies' academy as me. Don't you worry yourself none, Mrs. Bishop. I'll watch over your Carrie-Ann and see she behaves herself prop, Miss Haggerty had said, fluttering her dark eyelashes. Miss Haggerty was beautiful like her mother, with sweeping midnight curls, dark eyes that I could fall into, and soft lips that made me dream of kissing her. I don't know how it came about exactly, but somewhere between the ages of 12 and 16, I realized I was in love with Miss Lillian Haggerty, the daughter of a textile mogul and granddaughter to musicians rich in talent and passion for their art. She must have known it too that I was smitten with her, for I didn't know much how to hide it. Full child that I was, Mama divined it and cursed my long-dead papa's name. She blamed my affinity for Miss Haggerty on him, though I thought him blameless. That witch! She betrayed me. She has bent your mind, Carrie-Ann. I must send you to another school for your education and marry you off quickly to whoever will have you. The sooner, the better. Mama saw me as a risk to her second family's good name. My stepfather, Sid Bishop, had taken a risk on marrying a woman who had another man's baby before. A widow she claimed to be when she and Sid met. Sid said he'd raise me as his own little girl, but it was clear he never liked me as much as his own babies. Mama gave him 3, 2 boys and a girl. One of my half-brothers, Simon, died as a small child, and Mama was never the same after that. Sometimes thought I saw him peering at me from windows and behind tables. Car, what are you doing? He never seemed to manage my whole name. He had only been 4 when he died, you see. I didn't tell Mama I saw Simon. He attached himself to me for whatever reason and decided I was the best relative to haunt. I'm sorry, little one. I don't know why you chose me, but I'm going to try to honor your life with my life. I'm going to try to live it to the fullest and in the utmost truth. Simon was Mama's baby. He seemed to like me the best of our siblings, since his full-blood siblings, Alfie and Dottie, both closer to him in age, were not yet mature enough to realize how harmful their rough play was to their delicate brother. You keep stealing Alfie's old clothes. They're ugly and old and worn down. What's wrong with you, Carrie-Ann? Don't you want to be a pretty girl? Mama's pretty, and you insist on acting like a boy. Alfie's the boy around here, not you. No matter how you dress or act, everyone knows you're Mama's firstborn daughter. Dottie prodded me with her silver hairbrush. We shared a room, and she always told on me if she caught me wearing our brother's old clothes. We were now about the same size, so I could take his cast-offs without a problem. He would soon outgrow me. Sid Bishop yelled at Mama for my behavior, and she went after me in a rage. Must you carry on in such a shameful way, Carrie-Ann Bishop? Do you want the whole town to laugh at us? Academy was to be the answer. Sweet Southern Belle. That's what Mama wanted to make me into. Never mind that I found that type of woman to be my ultimate weakness. Never be her, but damn if I wouldn't do anything to prove myself worthy of having a Southern Belle on my arm. The idea became so attractive to me that I lay in a half-trance on my bed at the academy, staring up at the ceiling, dreaming of a world where I could be the fine Southern gentleman, and suffering when I realized the seeming impossibility of that dream. Miss Haggerty appeared above me, looking down with a grin. Oh, sweetheart, I didn't mean to startle you. The magnolia trees are in bloom, and I wondered if you wanted to walk with me, just the 2 of us. I sat up so violently, she stepped back, let out a little gasp. I rushed to button up my ankle boots. Of course, as you like, Miss Haggerty. That's another thing, honey. You can call me Lillian. We've been friends for years. Besides, you'll be debuting next year. You're practically a grown woman now. It'll be funny for you to call someone you've been friends with so long by such a formal title, don't you think? Lillian. I tried it on my tongue and found that it suited her better than Miss Haggerty. Yes, I prefer that coming from you. She offered an easy smile then. She was graduating this year. Her debut in society was last season when she turned 18. I had recently turned 17 myself, and already Sid had presented a list of suitors to Mama for approval. They were all men at least a decade older than me, mostly insanely wealthy and prominently known in the American business world. I couldn't care less, much to Mama's annoyance. You're such a horribly spoiled little thing. Do you know most girls with any sense in their heads at all would kill for the opportunities you turned your little nose up at? Carrie-Ann Bishop, you're a shame on this family. You're marrying one of them as soon as you graduate. You'll be engaged next season. Mark my words. I ran upstairs and cried, feeling trapped, unable to breathe. Father, Father, you wouldn't force me into a fate where I'd rather die than go on living, would you? I don't know you, but I'm your child. You wouldn't wish me dead. You wouldn't grind me under your shoe just to please those around you. I imagined my real father to be a kind, forgiving man. Times I confused him for God, strange child I was. You'd think I'd be angry with God for my predicament, but no. I felt there were angels with me. Mama only did what she thought to be natural. A good marriage was the only proper path for a daughter. Dottie was eager to please after I proved to be such a trial. Mama adored her, and Alfie. Naturally, Sid doted on them. While Dottie liked to crow to me how much Mama liked her better, Alfie pitied me. He might have been the only one to realize what I was and didn't hold it against me. Carrie-Ann, I believe you. I believe you could be my brother instead of my sister, he said when I cried to him, miserable over Mama's obsession with marrying me off. He might have been my younger brother, but as the only recognized son still living, he held sway among us children. Alfie was 2 years younger than me, but now at 15, taller and broader than I'd ever be. I was close to my full adult size, average for a girl, but small for a man. Let me wear his clothes. I only ever got in trouble if someone else recognized me. Alfie, can I tell you a secret? I asked him, desperate to be heard. Little Simon was staring at us through the window with those bright eyes of his. Sure, brother, anything you want. Alfie shrugged carelessly. I'm going to run away with Lillian Haggerty. My name is going to be Carson once I leave. You're going to run away from the Ladies' Academy together? I nodded. He saw the determination burning in my eyes. Don't tell anyone, please, Alfie. I'm going to die if I have to go through with any of the plans that Mama and Sid are fixing for me. I just know it. All right, Carson, fine. I won't tell anyone. He seemed uneasy, like weighing the options in his hands. Bless Alfie, he didn't say a word until it was too late. Lillian and I ran away from the Ladies' Academy together the following week. I chopped off my hair, wearing one of Alfie's old pair of pants and shirts. I looked like a young boy escorting a fine lady away. I hated how young I looked. As a nearly 18-year-old girl, I passed for a 13-year-old boy. It was gravely unfortunate. Everyone assumed I was a younger cousin of Lillian's. Lillian had bought some of her old finery and mine to pawn, dresses, hatpins, gloves, anything we couldn't use. I was excited with her at my side. It seemed unreal. But are you sure this is what you want, Lillian? You're a beautiful woman. You could have any man you wanted in all of Alabama and Mississippi, too. Why not throw in Georgia and Florida while we're at it? I felt as though her wanting me was impossible. She had so many options, and her parents hadn't pressured her at all, unlike mine. No, she insisted time and time again I was who she wanted. She held me in her arms and kissed me to make me never doubt her loyalty. But what could I do to protect her, and how could I possibly serve her so she felt safe and loved? That was my anxiety. As I aged into my early 20s, we still hadn't married yet, for I looked too young. I had to pass for at least a 17-year-old boy. My natural age now being 21, I had lived with Lillian since we ran away from the academy together. 5 years, and we had been happy, and I did write letters to my family explaining to them that this was not a fancy of mine. I intended to live my life as a man from now on. I didn't tell them exactly where I had gone, but only that I was not alone and I was healthy. They knew it was Lillian Haggerty whom I was living with, but since we crossed state lines twice, and I was of full adult majority age, now nothing could be done on their end. Sure, Mama lamented her mad daughter, the one that she had out of wedlock. A wild, unknown man's blood coursed through my veins. Perhaps Papa was no Southern gentleman, for how could he leave a lady in such a way as he did poor Mama? I had cried to him often at night to appear and to take me away from Mama and Sid, but nothing came of it. I was finally happy and at peace now. After moving several times with Lillian, I worked in many sorts of places, trying to provide a nice home for her. Tasks herself, she was not above working. She did singing lessons and secretarial work for other ladies in the area. Put full education to use. Lillian tutored many young girls in the ways of being a fine Southern lady. We used the false name Carson Bleu and Lillian Hillard to get around with. How old would you say I am, looking at me, sir? I asked my boss cautiously. A fine young lad of 18 you must be, he said with such confidence that I felt bowled over. Well, if I looked 18 now, I suppose I could finally ask Lillian to marry me. We could get engaged and move again, marry somewhere on the ride over to our next destination. I didn't want Sid to come looking for me. I didn't want him to think he could force me into marrying one of his oil barons. He and Mama didn't understand me, which at this point I didn't hope for their understanding, just that they'd let me be. Lillian was a full-grown woman in possession of her own mind and strengths. She had willingly chosen to build this life with me, even though we had our own difficulties. I had no family to rely on, having all but cut ties with the Bishops, save occasional letters between my siblings or my mother and myself. Lillian occasionally wrote a sister who was surprisingly sympathetic. She sent us some money sometimes, saying that she wished she could help us more. We hadn't the need for her to do so. Darling, would you ever consider marrying me? I think I finally look old enough for marriage without being questioned. I was almost 22 years old when I proposed. Lillian had just turned 24 herself. Carson, why hadn't you asked me yet? Were you really afraid they'd think you too young? Deathly. I hated how youthful and innocent I looked, with Mama's sad, wide eyes. My co-workers had often called me pretty boy, which I didn't well tolerate. They had no idea why it bothered me so much, thinking it a fine jest. I had to ignore them. They had no idea what they were even saying. I married Lillian as Carson Bleu 2 weeks after my 22nd birthday. It was a fine spring afternoon in 1911. The option to protect both her reputation and mine, I thought, was to join the army. Sweeping visions of the strength and might of military man. If I was to become one of their number, then never again would anyone dare question me. A pretty boy they might call me, but none would linger on the notion that a young uniformed man in front of them could be anything but a loyal soldier doing his duty. A soldier, Carson, are you sure? I want you to be proud of me, Lillian. If I can stay in the military for several years, I might make officer. Don't you think it would be grand to be the wife of a captain? She seemed uneasy because she thought I was risking too much. Carson, you don't have to prove anything to me or anyone else. Honey, I love you. I don't want you getting hurt for no reason or any reason. She was naturally set against it, but it was far too late. I'd signed up in a fever to prove myself the man I thought she needed, and in I went. Somehow, some way, I found myself drilling and falling into line with the rest of the boys. That way, when the war broke out in Europe 3 years later, they called for volunteers. Some of us were spared to try to help the people who would later be our allies. While the bulk of our men were held back, some seasoned soldiers did rush forward to aid the French and Belgian cause. I had studied French at the Ladies' Academy. Lillian and I still spoke French to each other occasionally for fun, to keep the skill alive. She also offered French lessons to the local girls of whatever town we happened to live in. So it didn't surprise her when I volunteered. In 1916, I was sent with a group of American volunteers straight to Belgium.